Alright, so starting off, I just want to explain that this is going to be a two-part series because WayForward has simply done too many games that are worth talking about. WayForward. If this isn't a name that you're familiar with, you're either missing out on some amazing games, or, like me until recently, you've played the good number of their games and enjoyed them, but had no idea that they had anything to do with those games. But first, let's get it out of the way. Yes, they did the Shantae games, and yes, they are amazing. I want to take the time out today and share my love of WayForward. We'll take a look at where they started, what they are well known for, what they've branched off and created, you may be surprised at what that is, and finally, what they're doing now. Founded in 1990 by Wendie Way, thus the name WayForward, Wendie Way had a brief experience as a child actor, appearing in The Changeling in 1980, also as a cameo of the same character in the movie Boo in 2005. Just as a side note, if you missed this film, life will go on. Their first release in 1994 was Mickey's Ultimate Challenge, under the developer name Designer Software. It was released for Super Nintendo, Game Boy, Genesis, Game Gear, and even the Master System. While this was a time when it was not uncommon for different ports of games to be handled by several different developer teams, they handled them all. I've actually taken the time out to check all of the ports, and for the most part, they're all the same. Something that was an uncommon occurrence during this time, as often ports of the same game heavily varied from console to console. Their next release wouldn't be seen until 2000 on the Game Boy Color, named Extreme Sports. Yeah, during the early 2000s, everything had to be extreme. And doing so, they had to drop the E, because, that's something you have to do. It's a decent game where you walk from one location to the next, competing in various sports. It's fun for what it is. It has good graphics for the Game Boy Color, and if you're the type that enjoys small mini games, this would be right up your alley. And if you can't find a cartridge of this, it's also available on the Virtual Console on the 3DS. The same year, they went on to release another two Game Boy Color games, based on the Sabrina the Teenage Witch animated series, which were Zapped and Spooked. Both of these games played similarly. You collect a set number of items, and sometimes have to switch over to being the cat, so you can go to the exit, located somewhere randomly on the level. The art of these games are fairly good, the gameplay is easy, but worth your time, and these games can be had for fairly cheap. That's one thing that I have to note. Most of WayForward's games can be had cheaply, most even being under $5. Now, obviously, if you follow the Shantae series, there are obvious exceptions to that rule. Wendie, released in 2001 based off of Wendie the Good Little Witch, a comic that was a spin-off from Casper the Ghost,
with his new best friend,
A witch! A witch!
Wendie, the Good Little Witch.
is another side-scroller with excellent graphics and mirrors some of the great things you'll later see in WayForward's Shantae series. This is definitely a game that you want to keep your eye on, as the price has been increasing fairly quickly. A certain someone that you'll see in the next episode may have claimed it as a hidden gem, so the price has been kinda going up since then. Wwf Betrayal, also released in 2001 on the Game Boy Color, came as a surprise to me whenever I looked it up. I wasn't expecting much. I assumed it would be another half-assed wrestling game where you mash a couple buttons inside of a wrestling ring. I was wrong. This, in my opinion, is one of WayForward's hidden treasures. It's a side-scroller beat-em-up where you choose one of 4 wrestlers and you're off to save Vince McMahon's daughter. Clearly, it's the extremely deep story that you could expect from a wrestling game. The gameplay is fun and feels like something you could expect from a beat-em-up on the NES, and I highly recommend checking it out. And now a game that probably needs no introduction, Shantae. It was released late in the Game Boy Color's life in 2002, and is heralded as one of the best games and most graphically impressive on the system. This game is what put WayForward on the map, and rightfully so. It's beautiful, fun to play, and will give you hours of side-scroller adventuring. Of course, all this comes with a cost. If you're looking to grab yourself a legitimate copy of Shantae, you may consider selling a few organs to secure yourself a copy. While I would love to add this game to my collection, I just can't push myself to give the asking price for it. It's amazing and fun, and I'll probably give you around 4 hours of gameplay. But man, several hundred to almost, I think, $500 now is what they're asking for it. I just can't do it. I guess emulation is just going to have to suffice for now. WayForward then went on to create games for the Game Boy Advance. Most were portable ports of games released on home consoles, which were sadly overlooked as they're generally superior to the home console counterparts. Yeah, I'm looking at you, X-Men the official game. However, they did do a standalone game during this time period, and it is infinitely excellent. And that game is Sigma Star Saga, released in 2005. It was a horizontal space shooter, sci-fi, story, action game. It has a lot going for it, and luckily, during the making of this video at least, it can be had for cheap. If you haven't had the pleasure of playing this game, I would definitely say take the time to pick it up if you can, as it's one not to be missed. Fast forwarding a few years to 2007, they did an amazing successor to the Contra series with Contra 4 for the Nintendo DS. This was the first title of WayForward's I personally owned of theirs when it was released. As a huge fan, I will say that it stacks up with the best of them in the Contra series. This game kind of came out of nowhere, and at first I was skeptical of the quality of it as it wasn't made by the original creators. I'm definitely happy I pushed that bias aside and chose to get it anyway. It's clear that WayForward made this as a love letter of sorts and appreciates the original games. This is evident by the amount of care that they spent on creating this. This is one of those games that everyone should have in their collection, period. I would also like to note that this is about a $30 game complete as of the time of this recording. I have been seeing a steady increase in the price on this, so if you're wanting to get it, now is probably a good time. It's one of those games that's justified in the price, and it's only going to continue to go up. Alright, so that'll about wrap it up for this episode. On the next episode, we'll be taking a look at more games, how WayForward's dev team branched off creating another studio. Just as a hint, they created a game that involves a knight that uses a shovel as a weapon. Wink wink. What games they're currently working on, and finally, their collaboration with limited run games. So, as always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.